Something happens to you every night that you have never been fully told about. Not the dreams, though the dreams are part of it. Not the rest, though the rest is real. Something deeper. Something that the most ancient traditions on Earth described in nearly identical language across cultures that never met, across centuries that never overlapped, and that modern quantum biology and consciousness research is now beginning to map with instruments precise enough to detect what was once only felt. Every single night, when your body crosses the threshold into deep sleep, your soul, your consciousness field, the luminous, energetic signature that is the truest version of you, separates from the physical body and moves into a dimension of reality that operates by entirely different rules than the waking world. It moves through frequencies that your physical senses cannot access. It makes contact with information, with energy, with other fields of consciousness, and with layers of your own being that the waking mind cannot reach. And then, before you open your eyes, before the alarm sounds, before the morning light touches your face, it returns, and it brings something back with it. This is not metaphor. This is not poetry. This is a process that has been described with stunning consistency by Tibetan Buddhist monks, ancient Egyptian priests, Vedic scholars, Sufi mystics, Taoist sages, indigenous dreamwalkers, and now, increasingly, by researchers studying consciousness, electromagnetic fields, quantum biology, and the physics of non-local awareness. The convergence is not coincidental. When this many traditions, this many lineages, this many independent observers across all of human history describe the same phenomenon in nearly the same terms, something is actually happening, and it is happening to you every night, whether you remember it or not. Today, we are going to walk through the full architecture of what your soul does when it leaves every night. We are going to look at the quantum mechanics of how this is even possible, how consciousness can move beyond the body, what dimensions it moves through, what it encounters there, and what it brings back. We are going to talk about why some mornings you wake up feeling like you received something, like something shifted, like something was resolved, or revealed, or restored, and why other mornings you wake up feeling like you barely left at all. We are going to talk about what your aura looks like during this process, what your electromagnetic field broadcasts into the quantum field while your body sleeps, and how you can begin to work consciously with this nightly journey so that what your soul brings back changes your waking life in ways that will genuinely shock you. Because what it can bring back is not small. It can bring back healing that the waking mind could not access. It can bring back information that no amount of research or thinking could have produced. It can bring back resolved grief, clarified purpose, quantum level shifts in your frequency that change what reality delivers to you when you wake. It can bring back encounters with other consciousness fields, loved ones, guides, aspects of your higher self that leave permanent marks on your energy. It can bring back the specific frequency upgrade your aura needs to move from broadcasting lack to broadcasting abundance, from broadcasting fear to broadcasting love, from broadcasting a signal that repels what you want to broadcasting one that calls it in. Your soul goes out every night as the person you have been, and it comes back as the person you are becoming. The question is, are you letting it bring back everything it went to get? Let us begin at the beginning. Let us begin with what your energy field actually does the moment your eyes close. You already know that you are not just a physical body. You feel this. You have always felt this, the sense that there is something animating you that is more than biology, more than chemistry, more than the electrochemical signals firing between neurons. That sense is accurate. It is not wishful thinking. It is not spiritual fantasy. It is the felt recognition of something measurable, something real, something that instruments are now sophisticated enough to begin detecting and mapping. Your body generates an electromagnetic field. This is not in dispute. The heart alone generates an electromagnetic field that the HeartMath Institute has measured extending several feet beyond the physical body in every direction. A torus-shaped field of pulsing energy that carries encoded information about your emotional state, your nervous system coherence, your dominant frequency at any given moment. Your brain generates its own field. Your nervous system generates its own field. Every cell in your body is a tiny electromagnetic broadcaster, and the combined output of all of those fields, the integrated, coherent whole of your personal electromagnetic signature, is what we call your aura. Your aura is real. It is measurable. It is not a spiritual concept that requires faith to believe in. It is a physical reality that requires instruments to measure. And the fact that most people cannot see it with their naked eyes does not make it any less present, any less active, or any less powerful. Now, Here is what happens to that field when you sleep. During waking consciousness, your electromagnetic field is tightly organized around the physical body. It radiates outward, yes, but it maintains a coherent relationship with your physical form. The consciousness that generates that field, what we might call your awareness, your presence, your sense of being the one who is here, is anchored in the body. It moves through the body's sensory channels. It processes reality through the body's nervous system. It is, in a real sense, in residence. During sleep, that residency changes. The first thing that happens as you cross into sleep is that your brainwave frequency begins to drop. Beta waves, the fast, high-frequency waves of active waking consciousness, begin to slow. You move through alpha, the relaxed awareness state, then into theta, the deeply hypnagogic state where the boundary between conscious and unconscious begins to dissolve. And then, in deep sleep, you drop into delta, the slowest, deepest brainwave frequency, where the body undergoes its most profound physical restoration, and where the most extraordinary things happen to your consciousness field. In delta sleep, the relationship between your consciousness and your physical body undergoes a fundamental shift. The electromagnetic field that constitutes your aura begins to expand. Researchers studying bioelectromagnetic fields have noted that the body's electromagnetic output changes significantly during deep sleep, not simply because the body is at rest, but because the consciousness field is doing something different. It is not simply quieting, it is relocating. This is what the ancient traditions were describing when they spoke of the soul leaving the body during sleep. They did not mean that the soul abandons the body permanently, or that the body is left without consciousness. They meant that the primary center of awareness, the luminous field of consciousness that is the truest you, shifts its primary location from inside the body to somewhere else. The Tibetan Buddhist tradition calls this the dream body, or the subtle body, a luminous vehicle of consciousness that is capable of moving through dimensions of reality that the physical body cannot access. The ancient Egyptians called it the Ka, one of the multiple soul bodies they believed a human being possessed, capable of traveling independently of the physical form. The Vedic tradition speaks of the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body that separates from the gross physical body during both sleep and death, and moves through subtler planes of existence. Indigenous traditions around the world speak of dream walking, of the soul's nightly journey through other worlds, of the information and healing and guidance that returns with the dreamer. What is remarkable is not just that all of these traditions describe the same basic phenomenon. What is remarkable is that they describe the same basic mechanics. The soul leaves through the crown of the head, or through the space above the body. It maintains a connection to the physical form, often described as a luminous cord of light, a thread of energy that keeps the soul tethered so it can return. It moves through realms or dimensions that have their own geography, their own inhabitants, their own laws, and it returns before waking, carrying what it gathered: the silver cord, the luminous thread, the energetic umbilical that keeps the traveling soul connected to its physical home. This image appears in ancient Egypt, in the Vedic texts, in the Bible. Ecclesiastes speaks of the silver cord being loosed at death, implying that during life, during sleep, it is maintained. It appears in Taoist texts, in Sufi poetry, in the accounts of near-death experiencers who describe seeing a luminous cord connecting their consciousness to their body as they float above it. This is not cultural contamination. These traditions did not read each other. They observed the same thing independently because the same thing was actually happening. Your consciousness field, your soul, has a mechanism for temporary separation from the body. And it uses that mechanism every single night. Now let us talk about where it goes, because this is where things become extraordinary. When your soul leaves the body during sleep, it does not simply hover in your bedroom, watching you breathe. It moves. It travels. It enters what we might call, in quantum mechanical terms, a non-local field of consciousness, a dimension of reality that is not bound by the spatial and temporal constraints that govern physical reality. Quantum physics has established, beyond any serious scientific dispute, that reality at the quantum level is fundamentally non-local. The famous experiments demonstrating quantum entanglement, for which a Nobel Prize was awarded in 2022, prove that particles that have interacted can influence each other instantaneously, regardless of the distance between them. There is no signal traveling between them at the speed of light. The influence is immediate, non-local, not bound by space or time as we experience them in the physical world. This non-locality is not a quirk or an anomaly. It is a fundamental feature of the quantum nature of reality. And consciousness, your consciousness, is not separate from that quantum nature. Your consciousness is not produced by your brain in the way that steam is produced by boiling water, a byproduct of a physical process that ceases when the process ceases. The emerging understanding in quantum biology and consciousness research suggests something far more extraordinary: that consciousness is a fundamental feature of reality itself, and that the brain is better understood as a receiver and transducer of consciousness rather than its producer. If this is true, and the evidence increasingly suggests that it is, then your consciousness field is not limited to the space inside your skull. It is not even limited to the space inside your aura. It is a localized expression of a field of consciousness that is, at its deepest level, non-local, unbounded, capable of accessing information and making contact across distances that physical reality would call impossible. And every night, when the body sleeps and the physical anchoring of consciousness relaxes, your soul moves into that non-local field. It moves into the quantum dimension, where space and time operate differently, where information is not separated by distance, where healing is not limited by the body's physical repair mechanisms, where connection with other consciousness fields, other souls, is not blocked by geography or even by the apparent barrier of physical death. This is where your soul goes every night, into the quantum field, into the non-local dimension of consciousness, into a realm where what is possible expands beyond anything your waking mind can fully conceive. And what it encounters there, and what it brings back, this is what we are here to understand. If this is resonating with something you have always felt but never had words for, take a moment to like this video and subscribe so we can keep exploring this together. There is so much more to uncover. Let me tell you about a woman named Miriam. Miriam was 53 years old, and she had been carrying something for 20 years that she could not put down. Her younger brother had died suddenly. An accident, no warning, no goodbye. And in the immediate aftermath, she had gone through the motions of grief that the world expected of her. She had attended the funeral. She had received the condolences. She had returned to work. She had, by every external measure, moved on. But something in her had not moved on. Something in her had sealed itself shut around the loss the way a tree grows around a wound. The tree continues to live, continues to grow, but the wound is still there, sealed inside, shaping the tree's growth in ways it cannot see. For 20 years, Miriam had not dreamed of her brother. She had not allowed herself to. She had built, without knowing it, a kind of energetic wall around the part of her consciousness that held the grief. And that wall kept the grief contained, but it also kept everything else out. The love, the memory, the unfinished conversation, the goodbye that never happened. Then one night, something shifted. She did not know what had changed. She had not done anything different. She had not gone to a healer, or taken a workshop, or read a book about grief. She had simply gone to sleep, as she did every night, and her soul had done what it always does. It had left, and it had traveled into the non-local field. And in that field, it had found what it had been keeping itself from finding for 20 years. Her brother was there, not as a memory, not as a dream image generated by her subconscious mind to comfort her, as a presence, as a consciousness field, as real in the way that the dream world is real, which is to say, real in a different register than physical reality, but no less actual, no less true. They did not have a long conversation. They did not need one. What passed between them was not primarily verbal. It was energetic. It was the transmission of a frequency, his frequency, the specific electromagnetic signature of his consciousness field that she had not felt in 20 years, and that her soul had been quietly, secretly aching for. And in that transmission was everything that had not been said: the love, the goodbye, the reassurance that he was not gone, not in the way she had feared, not in the way that had sealed her shut. He was simply elsewhere, in a different frequency range, in a dimension her waking eyes could not see, but her soul could find every night if she would only stop building walls against it. She woke up crying, not the sharp, contracted crying of fresh grief, but something else, the open, releasing crying of something that had been held too long, finally being allowed to let go. And she knew with a certainty that required no argument and no proof that what had happened was real, that she had genuinely encountered her brother's consciousness field, that the goodbye had finally happened. The grief did not disappear. She did not expect it to. But something in the quality of it changed permanently. The sealed, contracted, wall-building grief became something softer, something that could breathe, something that allowed the love back in alongside the loss. She began to dream of him regularly after that. Not always dramatically. Sometimes just a glimpse, a smile, a sense of his presence nearby. But the channel was open again, and her soul was using it. And what it was bringing back each morning was something she had not felt in 20 years. It was called healing. And her soul had gone and gotten it in the night. This is one of the things your soul can bring back, but it is only one. Let us talk about the full spectrum of what the nightly journey can retrieve, because the range is far wider than most people have been taught to expect. The first and perhaps most fundamental thing your soul brings back from its nightly journey is frequency. Pure, unmediated frequency, the specific energetic signature of whatever dimension, whatever consciousness, whatever field it encountered during the journey. When your soul moves into the non-local quantum field and makes contact with a higher frequency dimension, what various traditions call the higher planes, the celestial realms, the Akashic field, it absorbs that frequency the way a tuning fork absorbs the vibration of another tuning fork held near it. It resonates with what it encounters. And when it returns to the body, it carries that resonance with it. This is why some mornings you wake up feeling inexplicably elevated, not because anything in your external life has changed, not because you had a good night's sleep in any simple physical sense, but because your soul went somewhere high frequency during the night, and it brought that frequency back, and your body and your aura are now vibrating at a slightly higher rate than they were when you went to sleep. Your electromagnetic field has been upgraded. Your broadcast to the quantum field has shifted, and reality, which assembles itself around your signal, begins, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically, to respond differently. Have you ever noticed that there are certain mornings when everything seems to flow? When solutions appear effortlessly, when the right people show up, when synchronicities multiply, when you feel a quality of ease and rightness that you cannot attribute to any specific cause? This is not random. This is the quantum field responding to an upgraded broadcast. Your soul went somewhere during the night, absorbed a higher frequency, brought it back, and your aura is now radiating a signal that reality is assembling around with greater coherence and greater abundance. Have you ever woken up and felt that your energy had genuinely shifted overnight, that your field was different, that something in the quality of your light had changed? I would love to hear about it. Drop your experience in the comments. When did you first notice your own aura moving, your own frequency lifting, your own radiance doing something you could not explain? The second thing your soul brings back is information. This is perhaps the most practically astonishing aspect of the nightly journey, and it is the one that has been most consistently documented across cultures and across history. In the non-local quantum field, information is not stored the way it is stored in physical reality. In physical reality, information is local. It exists in specific locations, in specific books or databases or brains, and accessing it requires physical proximity or physical transmission. In the quantum field, information is non-local. It exists in a kind of universal library, what some researchers call the Akashic field, what others call the zero-point field, what quantum physicists describe as the quantum vacuum, a sea of information that underlies all of physical reality, and that consciousness, in its non-local state, can access directly. Your soul, moving through this field during sleep, can access information that your waking mind, bound by the limitations of your physical nervous system and your 5 physical senses, simply cannot reach. It can access information about your own life, your purpose, your path, the next step that is right for you. It can access information about problems you have been wrestling with, the solution that your rational mind has been circling without finding. It can access information about relationships, about health, about creative projects, about decisions that feel impossible from inside the limitations of waking consciousness. This is why some of the greatest creative and intellectual breakthroughs in human history have come during sleep or in the hypnagogic state just before or after sleep. Dmitri Mendeleev dreamed the periodic table. Paul McCartney heard the melody of Yesterday in a dream. Srinivasa Ramanujan, one of the greatest mathematical geniuses in history, attributed many of his most extraordinary theorems to his family deity, who appeared in his dreams and wrote equations on his tongue. Nikola Tesla received technical visions during sleep that he then built in waking life. Einstein developed aspects of his theory of relativity by imagining himself riding on a beam of light, a vision that came to him in a dream-like state. These are not coincidences. These are documented instances of consciousness accessing non-local information during the sleep state and bringing it back into waking reality. Your soul goes into the quantum field where all information exists simultaneously and non-locally, and it returns with what you needed. The question is whether you are in a state to receive what it brings back. And this is where your aura becomes critically important. What we are exploring today is one layer of something much larger. If you want the complete map, of how your electromagnetic field broadcasts, how to recognize the patterns dimming your signal, and how to return to the coherent radiance that was always already yours. I have written something for you called the Remembering Field, a quantum guide to returning to the light you forgot you were carrying, and it walks you through all 7 movements from unconscious broadcast to conscious coherence, grounded in the same quantum mechanics of your actual electromagnetic field that we are exploring here. It is linked in the pinned comment below. Let us go deeper into the quantum mechanics of what happens to your electromagnetic field during the nightly journey, because this is the part that most people never learn about their own energy. And understanding it changes everything about how you relate to sleep, to dreams, and to the extraordinary process that is happening in your energy field every single night. When your soul begins to separate from the body as you enter deep sleep, your aura undergoes a transformation. The tightly organized, body-centered electromagnetic field that characterizes your waking state begins to expand. The boundaries of your field, which during waking consciousness are relatively defined, relatively contained, begin to soften and extend. Your aura literally grows during deep sleep. It reaches further into the surrounding space. It becomes more permeable to the fields around it. This expansion is both a vulnerability and an opportunity. It is a vulnerability because a field that is expanded and permeable is also more susceptible to entrainment, to being pulled into resonance with whatever frequencies are present in the environment. If the environment around you during sleep is chaotic, electromagnetically polluted, or energetically dense, your expanding field can absorb those frequencies the way an expanding sponge absorbs whatever liquid it is submerged in. This is why the energy of your sleeping environment matters far more than most people realize. It is why some ancient traditions had specific practices for energetically clearing and protecting the sleeping space. It is why you sometimes wake up from a night's sleep in a particular environment, feeling worse than when you went to sleep. Your field expanded into a frequency range that was not beneficial and absorbed what was there. But the expansion is also, and primarily, an extraordinary opportunity. Because when your field expands and your soul moves into the non-local quantum dimension, your aura becomes a kind of antenna, a vast, sensitive, non-local receiver capable of tuning to frequencies that your contracted, body-bound waking field cannot access. Your expanded aura during sleep is like a radio telescope compared to a transistor radio. The range of what it can receive is incomparably greater and what it receives, it encodes. The frequencies your soul encounters during its nightly journey are not simply experienced and forgotten. They are encoded into your electromagnetic field. They become part of your aura's signature. They alter the broadcast that your field sends into the quantum field when you wake. This is the mechanism by which the nightly journey changes your waking life. Not through memory, not through conscious recollection of what happened during sleep, but through frequency encoding. Your soul goes out, encounters something, absorbs its frequency, and returns with that frequency encoded in your field. You wake up different, not because you remember being different, but because your aura is now broadcasting a different signal, and reality responds to that signal. Now let us talk about what your soul brings back when the journey is truly extraordinary. Because there is a category of nightly experience that goes beyond frequency absorption and information retrieval. A category that the ancient traditions described in reverent terms, and that modern accounts of anomalous sleep experiences consistently confirm. There are nights when your soul does not simply move through the quantum field, gathering frequencies and information. There are nights when it makes contact. Contact with what? With other consciousness fields, with the souls of people who are still in physical bodies, but whose consciousness fields are also moving through the non-local dimension during sleep. With the consciousness fields of those who have left physical embodiment, what we call the dead, though that word misrepresents what they actually are, which is consciousness fields that have relocated to a non-physical frequency range, with what various traditions call guides, teachers, higher dimensional intelligences, consciousness fields that are native to the non-local dimension, and that have, as their purpose, the support and evolution of embodied consciousness. And sometimes, most extraordinarily, with your own higher self. This is a concept that appears across virtually every wisdom tradition in some form. The idea that your current, embodied, waking state consciousness is not the full extent of what you are. That there is a higher dimensional aspect of your consciousness field, a version of you that exists at a higher frequency, with greater access to information, with a broader perspective on your life and your purpose, with a clarity about your path that your waking mind, caught in the noise of daily life, cannot consistently access. The Vedantic tradition calls this the Atman, the true self, the universal consciousness that is the deepest nature of every individual. The Jungian tradition calls it the self, the totality of the psyche, the central archetype that the ego is in relationship with. The Western esoteric tradition calls it the higher self, or the holy guardian angel, the divine aspect of your being that guides and oversees your incarnational journey. Shamanic traditions speak of the higher soul, the part of the soul that remains in the upper world, while a portion descends into embodiment. Whatever we call it, the consistent description is the same. There is a higher dimensional aspect of your consciousness that your soul, during the nightly journey, can encounter and receive transmission from. And what that transmission contains is nothing less than the specific guidance, the specific frequency upgrade, the specific course correction that your life most needs in this moment. Have you ever woken up from sleep knowing something you didn't know when you went to sleep? Not remembering a dream that told you something, but simply knowing with a quiet, unshakable certainty something that had been unclear or hidden or out of reach before you slept. That is what a transmission from your higher self feels like when it integrates. The knowledge does not arrive with fanfare. It arrives as a quiet certainty that is already there when you open your eyes, as if it was always there, and you simply could not see it until now. This is your soul returning from contact with its own higher dimensional aspect and bringing back what was transmitted. And what was transmitted is always, without exception, exactly what you needed. Let us do something together, right now. Let us bring this out of the conceptual and into the felt experience of your own energy field. Because understanding this intellectually is only the beginning. The real transformation happens when you begin to feel your own field, to sense your own aura, to become conscious of the process that is happening in your energy every night. Close your eyes if you are able to do so safely. Take a breath that is slightly slower and deeper than your normal breath. Not forced, not controlled. Simply a breath that is more intentional, more spacious, more willing to fill the full capacity of your lungs. As you breathe, bring your attention to the space around your body, not inside your body, around it. The space that extends 6 inches, a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet beyond your physical skin in every direction. This space is not empty. It is filled with your electromagnetic field. It is filled with your aura, the measurable, real, physically present field of energy that you generate and that broadcasts your frequency to the world. Feel that field right now. You may feel it as warmth. You may feel it as a subtle pressure or presence. you may feel it as a tingling at the edges of your awareness. You may simply feel a quality of expansion, a sense that you are larger than your body, that you extend into the space around you in a way that is real, even if it is subtle. That is your aura. That is the field your soul inhabits and radiates through. Now bring your attention to the quality of that field, not to analyze it, not to judge it, but simply to notice it. Is it tight and contracted, pulled close to the body? Or is it expansive and open, reaching freely into the surrounding space? Is it dense and heavy, carrying the weight of accumulated stress and unprocessed emotion? Or is it light and clear, radiating with a quality of openness and ease? Whatever you notice, whatever the quality of your field right now, is simply information. It is your aura showing you its current state. And the current state is not fixed. It is not permanent. It is a moment-by-moment broadcast that can shift with your intention, your breath, your conscious choice about what you are radiating. Now bring your attention to your heart center, the space in the middle of your chest, slightly to the left of center. The heart is the primary generator of your electromagnetic field. It is the organ that produces the strongest electromagnetic output of any organ in the body. And that output carries the encoded information of your emotional state, your dominant frequency, your fundamental relationship with life. Feel your heart right now, not as a pump, as a broadcaster, as the primary antenna of your aura, sending your signal into the quantum field with every beat. What is your heart broadcasting right now? Not what you think it should be broadcasting. What is it actually radiating? Is there love there? Is there fear? Is there longing? Is there gratitude? Is there grief? Is there a quiet, steady warmth that does not need any particular emotional content? Simply the warmth of being alive, of being here, of being the particular luminous field of consciousness that you are. Whatever is there, let it be there. Let it be seen. Let it be felt. Because the first step in becoming a conscious broadcaster is becoming honest about what you are currently broadcasting. And the second step is knowing that you have the power to shift it. Take another breath. As you exhale, imagine that your field expands slightly. Not because you are forcing it, but because you are releasing the contraction that has been holding it tight. Let your aura breathe. Let it reach into the surrounding space with a quality of ease and openness. This is the beginning of what we might call field expansion practice, the conscious cultivation of the expanded, permeable aura state that your soul naturally enters during sleep. And the extraordinary thing is that you can practice this state while awake. You can practice expanding your field, softening its boundaries, opening it to the non-local dimension. And in doing so, you can begin to receive some of what the nightly journey delivers, even in your waking hours. But the nightly journey itself is where the deepest work happens. And the more conscious you become of that journey, the more you can prepare for it, the more you can cooperate with it, and the more completely you can receive what your soul brings back. Let us talk about what it means to prepare for the nightly journey. Because most people go to sleep the way they fall off a cliff, without intention, without preparation, without any conscious relationship to the extraordinary process that is about to happen in their energy field. And as a result, they miss most of what the journey has to offer. The preparation begins before you close your eyes. It begins with what you do in the hour before sleep, the frequencies you expose yourself to, the emotional state you cultivate, the intention you set for the journey ahead. In the hour before sleep, your nervous system is in the process of downshifting from the high-frequency beta state of waking consciousness toward the slower, deeper states that allow the soul's journey to begin. This downshift is not just neurological. It is electromagnetic. Your aura is beginning its nightly expansion. Your field is beginning to soften and open. And what you feed that opening matters enormously. If you spend the hour before sleep consuming high stimulation content, news, social media, emotionally charged entertainment, you are feeding your expanding field with chaotic, high-frequency, emotionally dense information. Your aura absorbs that information. It encodes it, and it carries that encoded chaos into the non-local dimension when the soul's journey begins. The result is that your soul moves into the quantum field, carrying a dense, chaotic frequency signature that limits where it can travel and what it can access. High-frequency chaos in the field acts like static in a radio signal. It obscures the clearer, more subtle transmissions that the non-local dimension has to offer. If, instead, you spend the hour before sleep in a state of relative calm, gentle movement, quiet music, meditation, conscious breathing, gratitude practice, reading something that elevates your frequency, your field enters the expansion phase in a state of coherence. Coherence is the key word here. When your electromagnetic field is coherent, when its waves are organized, harmonious and phase-aligned rather than random and chaotic, it becomes a dramatically more effective receiver and transmitter. A coherent field can tune to higher frequencies. It can access more subtle information. It can make contact with higher dimensional consciousness fields that a chaotic, incoherent field simply cannot reach. The HeartMath Institute has done extensive research on heart rate variability as a measure of electromagnetic field coherence, and their findings are unambiguous. When the heart is in a state of coherence, generated by positive emotional states like love, gratitude, and compassion, the electromagnetic field it generates is organized, powerful, and capable of influencing the fields around it in measurable ways. When the heart is in a state of incoherence, generated by stress, fear, anger, or emotional chaos, the field it generates is disorganized and limited in its range and influence. This research was done on waking coherence, but the implications for sleep are direct and profound. If you enter sleep in a state of heart coherence, if your field is organized, harmonious, and broadcasting a high-frequency signal as your soul begins its journey, then where your soul can travel, what it can access, and what it can bring back is of a fundamentally different order than if you enter sleep in a state of incoherence. The preparation for the nightly journey is, at its core, the cultivation of coherence before the journey begins. And there is one more element of preparation that is perhaps the most powerful of all: intention. Setting an intention before sleep is one of the most ancient and consistently recommended practices across virtually every wisdom tradition that has worked with the soul's nightly journey. The specifics vary. Some traditions recommend formal prayers. Some recommend specific visualizations. Some recommend the repetition of sacred sounds or phrases. But the underlying mechanism is the same. You are giving your soul a direction. You are telling your consciousness field what to go looking for in the non-local dimension. This works because consciousness is inherently directed by intention. Intention is not simply a thought or a wish. Intention is a frequency, a specific electromagnetic signal that your field broadcasts into the quantum field, and that the quantum field responds to by organizing reality around that signal. When you set a clear, coherent intention before sleep, you are giving your soul a tuning, a specific frequency to seek out in the vast non-local field. And your soul, which is an extraordinarily capable navigator of the quantum dimension, will follow that tuning toward what you asked for. What can you set an intention for? Anything that genuinely matters to you. Healing, physical, emotional, relational. Guidance, about a decision, a direction, a next step. Creative breakthrough, the solution to a problem, the inspiration for a project, the missing piece of something you have been building. Connection, with a loved one who has passed, with your higher self, with a dimension of your own being that you have not yet fully met. Frequency upgrade, simply asking your soul to go to the highest frequency dimension it can access and bring back whatever your field most needs. The intention does not need to be elaborate. It does not need to be perfectly worded. What it needs is to be genuine, to carry the actual frequency of your real desire, your real need, your real question. A simple, honest intention set from the heart carries more power than an elaborate ritual performed from the mind. Try this tonight. In the last few minutes, before you close your eyes, bring your awareness to your heart center. Feel the warmth there. Feel the electromagnetic field your heart is generating. And from that place, from your heart, not your mind, speak your intention, not out loud unless you want to. You can speak it silently, as a felt sense of direction rather than a verbal statement. Tell your soul where to go. Tell your consciousness field what to bring back. And then release it. Trust it. Let your soul do what it does every night. Now, with the added power of your conscious participation. And then, in the morning, before you reach for your phone, before you speak to anyone, before you engage with the demands of the waking world, pause. Lie still for a few minutes. Let your soul complete its return. Let the frequency it is carrying settle into your field. Let the information it gathered begin to percolate into your awareness. You may not remember specific dreams. You may not receive a clear verbal message. But if you lie still and pay attention, you will feel something, a quality of knowing, a sense of direction, a subtle but unmistakable shift in your frequency that was not there when you went to sleep. That is your soul bringing something back. Receive it. Honor it. Let it change you. And I want to hear about it. Has there been a moment when you noticed your own energy field shifting? When you walked into a room and felt your light land differently? When someone responded to you in a way that told you your frequency had changed? When you felt the warmth of your own field activating in a way you could not explain? Share it in the comments. These stories matter, and they remind all of us what we are actually capable of. Let me tell you about a man named Elias. Elias was a composer. Not famous, not struggling. Somewhere in the vast middle space of artistic life, producing work that was good enough to sustain him, but that had never broken through into the realm of truly extraordinary. He knew the difference. He could hear it in other people's music. That quality of something coming through from beyond the composer. Something that the composer's personal skill and effort could not have produced alone. He called it the divine frequency, though he was not particularly religious. He meant something real by it, a quality of music that seemed to arrive from somewhere other than the human mind, that carried information and feeling that transcended what any individual consciousness could have generated. He wanted to access that. He had wanted it his entire creative life, and he had tried everything he knew how to try. Different techniques, different instruments, different environments, different states of mind. He had tried working in the early morning when his mind was fresh. He had tried working late at night when his inhibitions were lower. He had tried meditation, had tried fasting, had tried the various substances that artists have used across history to dissolve the boundary between ordinary consciousness and something larger. Nothing had produced what he was looking for in a sustained, reliable way. Then he began to work with his sleep. Not in a complicated way. He began simply by setting an intention before sleep. He would sit at his piano in the last hour of the evening, play quietly for a while in a state of open receptivity, and then, before going to bed, he would speak his intention clearly. Show me the music. Not my music. The music. Whatever is waiting to come through. Let me hear it during the night and bring it back. The first few weeks, nothing remarkable happened. He had vague, musical dreams that dissolved before he could capture them. He woke up with fragments, a melodic phrase here, a harmonic color there, but nothing cohesive, nothing that felt like the breakthrough he was seeking. But he kept going. He kept setting the intention. He kept lying still in the morning, letting the transition from sleep to waking be gradual and gentle, giving his soul time to complete its return and let him feel what it had brought back. And then, on a Tuesday morning in November, he woke up with a piece of music fully formed in his awareness. Not a fragment, not a sketch. A complete piece, its structure, its development, its emotional arc, its resolution. He could hear it as clearly as if it were being played in the room. He went directly to the piano without eating, without speaking, without doing anything that might disrupt the transmission. And he began to play what he was hearing. It took him 4 hours to transcribe what had arrived. And when he played it back, he wept, not from pride, from recognition. This was the quality he had been seeking. This was the divine frequency. This was music that had come through him rather than from him. And he knew with absolute certainty that it had arrived during the night in the quantum field, and that his soul had brought it back. He kept working this way. Not every night produced a complete composition. Most nights produced fragments, colors, impressions. But the cumulative effect of consistently setting the intention, consistently lying still in the morning to receive what had arrived, consistently honoring the nightly journey as the primary creative act of his life, the cumulative effect was transformative. His work changed. The divine frequency became a regular presence in it. People who heard his music began to describe it in the terms he had always hoped for, as something that seemed to come from beyond the individual composer, something that carried information and feeling that transcended what any single human consciousness could have generated alone. Because it did. His soul was going out every night into the quantum field, where all music exists simultaneously and non-locally. And it was bringing back specific pieces of that infinite musical reality and encoding them in his field. He was not composing, he was receiving. And then he was transcribing what he received. This is available to you, not just in music, not just in art, in every domain of your life, in the decisions you need to make, the problems you need to solve, the healing you need to receive, the direction you need to find. Your soul goes out every night into the field where all of this exists, and it brings back what it encounters. The question is only whether you are conscious enough of the process to cooperate with it, to prepare for it, to receive what it brings back with the full attention and gratitude that it deserves. Now let us go deeper into the mechanics of what your aura does during the return journey, because the return is as important as the departure, and it is the part that is least understood. When your soul completes its journey through the non-local dimension and begins the process of returning to the body, it carries with it the frequencies it has absorbed, the information it has gathered, the transmissions it has received. And as it re-enters the body, as it moves back through the energetic layers of your aura and settles back into physical residence, it deposits what it has brought back into your electromagnetic field. This deposition process is not instantaneous. It happens gradually, in layers, as consciousness moves from the deep delta state of profound sleep through the lighter stages back toward waking. This is why the transition from sleep to waking is so important. This is why the first few minutes after you open your eyes, or even before you open your eyes, are such a critical window. In those first minutes, the deposition process is still happening. Your soul is still settling back into the body. The frequencies it has brought back are still encoding themselves into your electromagnetic field. The information it has gathered is still percolating from the quantum field into the level of awareness where your waking mind can begin to access it. If you interrupt this process, if you jolt yourself awake with an alarm and immediately grab your phone and plunge into the stimulation of the waking world, you cut off the deposition process before it completes. You lose most of what your soul brought back. Not because it wasn't there, but because you didn't give it the time and space to fully integrate. This is why so many spiritual traditions have practices around the transition from sleep to waking. The Tibetan Buddhist practice of dream yoga includes specific instructions for how to wake up. Slowly, gently, maintaining the awareness of the dream state as long as possible, allowing the consciousness to make the transition gradually rather than abruptly. Indigenous dream practices often involve lying still after waking and reviewing the night's experiences before engaging with the physical world. Sufi practices include specific prayers and intentions for the moment of waking, designed to honor the soul's return and invite full integration of what it has brought back. These are not arbitrary rituals. They are precise instructions for how to maximize the integration of what the nightly journey delivers. They are the accumulated wisdom of traditions that understood through direct experience across thousands of years that the morning transition is a sacred window, a brief, precious time when the two worlds are still close, when the quantum field is still accessible, when the soul's return is still fresh and its gifts are still available to be received. Give yourself that window, even 5 minutes, even 3. Before you do anything else in the morning, lie still. Breathe. Let your awareness be soft and open. Notice what is present. Notice what has changed. Notice what you know now that you did not know last night. Notice what has shifted in the quality of your field. in the way your aura feels around your body. Notice what your heart is broadcasting that is different from what it was broadcasting when you went to sleep. That difference is what your soul brought back. And it is worth far more than the 3 minutes of social media scrolling that you would otherwise spend in that window. Let us talk about something that not many people have the courage to talk about, but that is essential to a complete understanding of the soul's nightly journey. Let us talk about what happens when the journey encounters darkness. Not all of what exists in the non-local quantum field is high frequency. Not all of what your soul encounters during the nightly journey is beneficial. The quantum field contains the full spectrum of consciousness, from the highest, most luminous frequencies to the densest, most contracted ones. And a soul moving through that field without protection, without coherence, without the energetic integrity that comes from a strong, well-maintained aura, can encounter frequencies that are not beneficial and absorb them. This is the reality behind what various traditions call psychic attack, negative entity encounter, or dream invasion. The experience of encountering during sleep something that feels threatening, draining, or darkening. These experiences are real. They are not simply bad dreams generated by the subconscious mind, though some disturbing dreams certainly are that. Some of what is encountered during the nightly journey is genuinely dense, genuinely contracted, genuinely incompatible with your highest frequency and your well-being. And the protection against these encounters is not complicated, but it is important. The protection is your aura. A strong, coherent, high-frequency aura is the most powerful protection your soul has during the nightly journey. When your electromagnetic field is coherent, when it is vibrating at a high frequency, organized and harmonious, it naturally repels lower frequency fields, the way a strong magnetic field repels certain materials. Lower frequency consciousness fields cannot easily penetrate a high frequency, coherent aura. They cannot easily entrain a field that is vibrating at a significantly higher rate than they are. The physics of electromagnetic entrainment works both ways. Just as a low-frequency field can pull a high-frequency field down toward it, a sufficiently high-frequency field is naturally resistant to downward entrainment. This is why the work of maintaining your aura, of keeping your field coherent, clear, and vibrating at the highest frequency you can sustain, is not just about what you attract in waking life. It is about what your soul encounters and what it is vulnerable to during the nightly journey. A strong aura protects the soul during its travels, the way a strong immune system protects the body during its encounters with pathogens. It does not prevent all encounters, but it ensures that the encounters that happen are ones your field can handle, and that what your soul absorbs and brings back is of a frequency that serves your evolution rather than diminishing it. How do you maintain a strong aura? How do you keep your field coherent, clear, and high frequency? This is the work of conscious radiance, the daily practice of tending your electromagnetic field the way a gardener tends a garden. And the principles are simpler than most people expect. The first principle is emotional honesty. Unprocessed emotion is one of the primary sources of aura disruption. When you experience an emotion and do not allow yourself to feel it fully, when you suppress it, deny it, push it down, seal it away, the way Miriam sealed away her grief, that emotion does not disappear. It becomes encoded in your electromagnetic field as a disruption pattern, a kind of static, a dense, contracted node of energy that interferes with the coherence of your field and lowers its overall frequency. The practice of emotional honesty, of allowing yourself to feel what you feel, to move through your emotional experience rather than around it, is one of the most powerful aura maintenance practices available. It is not about wallowing in difficult emotions. It is about allowing them to complete their natural arc, to move through the field and release, rather than getting stuck and accumulating. The second principle is intentional frequency cultivation. Your electromagnetic field is constantly being influenced by what you expose yourself to. The information you consume, the conversations you have, the environments you inhabit, the music you listen to, the images you look at. Every input has a frequency, and your field tends to entrain to the frequencies it is most consistently exposed to. If you consistently expose yourself to high-frequency inputs, beauty, love, truth, creativity, nature, genuine human connection, your field tends toward higher frequency. If you consistently expose yourself to low-frequency inputs, fear, outrage, comparison, meaningless stimulation, environments of chronic stress, your field tends toward lower frequency. This is not about being naive or sheltered from the difficulties of reality. It is about being intentional and conscious about what you are feeding your field, about making choices wherever you have the choice that tend your electromagnetic signature toward coherence and luminosity rather than away from it. The third principle is the practice of heart coherence. We have already spoken about the HeartMath Institute's research on heart rate variability and electromagnetic field coherence. The practical application of this research is simple. When you deliberately cultivate positive emotional states, love, gratitude, compassion, appreciation, you shift your heart into a state of coherence that organizes and elevates your entire electromagnetic field. This is not just a feeling. It is a measurable electromagnetic event. Your field becomes more organized, more powerful, more capable of both broadcasting a high-frequency signal and receiving high-frequency transmissions. A simple practice. Several times throughout the day, bring your attention to your heart. Breathe slowly and deeply, with the sense that you are breathing through your heart center. Call to mind something or someone you genuinely love or appreciate, not as a mental exercise, but as a felt, embodied experience of love or gratitude. Hold that feeling in your heart for 30 seconds, a minute, as long as feels natural. This is heart coherence practice, and its effects on your electromagnetic field are cumulative. Each session builds on the last, gradually raising the baseline frequency of your aura and strengthening it against disruption. When you enter sleep from a state of heart coherence, your soul begins its nightly journey from a position of strength, clarity, and high frequency. And what it can access from that position is of a fundamentally different order than what it can access from a position of incoherence and low frequency. Your aura is the vessel your soul travels in. Tend it accordingly. Let us talk about the people in your life who you feel most drawn to, most energized by, most expanded in the presence of. The ones who seem to radiate something that makes you feel more alive, more clear, more like yourself. And let us talk about what is actually happening between your fields when you are in their presence. When two electromagnetic fields come into close proximity, they interact. They influence each other. They can entrain, meaning one field begins to synchronize with the other, adopting aspects of its frequency and pattern. This is why being in the presence of certain people feels so nourishing, so elevating, so clarifying, and why being in the presence of others feels draining, contracting, or darkening. It is not simply about personality or chemistry, though those are real. It is about the interaction of electromagnetic fields. When your aura comes into contact with a field that is vibrating at a higher frequency than yours, there is a natural tendency toward upward entrainment. Your field is pulled upward toward the higher frequency. You feel more alive, more clear, more expanded because your field is literally being elevated by the interaction. When your aura comes into contact with a field that is vibrating at a lower frequency, the entrainment can go either way. Your high-frequency field can pull the lower field upward, or the lower field can pull your field downward, depending on the relative coherence and strength of each field. This is why a strong, coherent, high-frequency aura is not only beneficial for your own well-being, but is a genuine service to everyone your field comes into contact with. A strong aura elevates the fields around it. It creates coherence in its environment. It makes people feel better simply by being present. And here is the extraordinary connection to the nightly journey. The people whose fields most elevate yours during the day are also the people whose souls most frequently travel in compatible dimensions during the night. Field resonance is not limited to physical proximity. Because the quantum field is non-local, consciousness fields that are in resonance with each other can find each other in the non-local dimension, regardless of physical distance. This means that the people you are most deeply connected to, the ones whose frequency most resonates with yours, your souls are meeting in the quantum field during sleep. Not always consciously, not always memorably, but the connection that you feel with them in waking life has a non-local quantum field dimension that continues and deepens during the nightly journey. Have you ever had the experience of dreaming about someone and then receiving a message from them the next day? Of thinking of someone just before they contact you? Of feeling a sudden surge of love or concern for someone who, you later discover, was going through something significant at that exact moment? These are not coincidences. These are the quantum field connections between your consciousness fields expressing themselves across the non-local dimension. Sometimes during sleep, sometimes during waking moments of expanded awareness, but always real, always meaningful, always evidence of the extraordinary non-local nature of consciousness. Your soul is not alone during its nightly journey. It moves through the quantum field in a web of connections with other souls, some that you know in waking life, some that you know only in the non-local dimension, some that are guiding and supporting your journey in ways that your waking mind cannot fully comprehend. And the quality of those connections, the frequency of those meetings, the depth of what is transmitted between fields, all of this is influenced by the strength and coherence of your aura. A strong, coherent, high-frequency aura attracts high-frequency connections in the quantum field. It draws your soul into resonance with the most luminous, most supportive, most evolutionary consciousness fields available to you. It ensures that the meetings your soul has during the night are meetings that elevate, illuminate, and advance your journey. This is why tending your aura is not a selfish practice. It is a practice of service to yourself, to everyone your field touches in waking life, and to the web of consciousness connections that your soul maintains in the non-local dimension every night. Let us talk about something that happens to some of you, perhaps to many of you, that you have never had a framework for understanding. Let us talk about the experience of waking up from sleep, knowing that something has shifted. Not just in your mood, not just in your energy, but in something deeper. In your fundamental relationship to a situation, a relationship, a belief, a pattern that has been with you for a long time. This is not rare. This is not extraordinary in the sense of unusual. It is extraordinary in the sense of being far beyond what ordinary understanding can account for. And it happens because your soul, during the nightly journey, has done something that your waking mind, with all its effort and analysis and intention, could not do. It has released something. The quantum field is not only a place of acquisition, a place where your soul goes to gather frequencies, information, and transmissions. It is also a place of release, a place where the dense, contracted, low-frequency patterns that have accumulated in your electromagnetic field, the fear patterns, the lack patterns, the grief patterns, the self-limiting beliefs encoded in your aura, can be dissolved, transmuted, and released in ways that waking state processing cannot always achieve. This is because the quantum field operates outside of time. In the non-local dimension, the past is not fixed, and the future is not determined. What exists is a field of quantum probability, a vast sea of possibility in which any configuration of reality is theoretically available. And consciousness, moving through this field, has the ability to interact with the probability field in ways that alter what becomes actual. This sounds abstract. Let us make it concrete. You have a pattern. Let us say a pattern of not feeling worthy of love. This pattern was established early in your life, perhaps so early that you have no conscious memory of its origin. It is encoded in your electromagnetic field as a specific frequency signature, a contracted, low-frequency pattern that broadcasts, without your conscious knowledge or consent, a signal that says, "I am not worthy." And the quantum field, which responds to your signal by assembling reality around it, responds to that broadcast by consistently delivering experiences that confirm the belief, relationships that confirm unworthiness, opportunities that pass you by, a quality of life that feels subtly, persistently, below what you know at some deep level is possible for you. Your waking mind knows this pattern is there. You have worked on it in therapy, in journaling, in affirmations, in every conscious tool available to you. And you have made progress. But the pattern persists because it is encoded not just in your conscious mind, but in your electromagnetic field, in the body's cellular memory, in the nervous system's habitual responses, in the aura's baseline broadcast. Then one night, your soul travels into the quantum field and encounters something. Perhaps it encounters a high-frequency consciousness field, a guide, a teacher, your own higher self, that transmits a frequency directly into your field that is incompatible with the pattern of unworthiness. Not a message that says, "You are worthy." Not an affirmation. A frequency, a specific electromagnetic signature that, when encoded in your field, makes the unworthiness pattern literally unable to maintain itself, like a light that, when turned on, makes darkness impossible. Not because it fights the darkness, because it is light. And light and darkness cannot occupy the same space. Or perhaps your soul encounters, in the quantum field, the original moment when the unworthiness pattern was established, not as a memory, but as an energetic reality, a node of contracted frequency in the probability field. And it releases that node. It dissolves the energetic charge that has been maintaining the pattern in your field for decades. Not through understanding, not through analysis, not through the slow work of conscious reprogramming, but through direct energetic dissolution in the quantum dimension where time does not constrain what is possible. You wake up. You feel different. You cannot fully explain why. But something in your fundamental relationship to yourself, to love, to what you believe you deserve, something has shifted. The pattern is not completely gone. Old patterns leave traces, but its grip has loosened. Its frequency in your field has diminished. And in the weeks that follow, you begin to notice that reality is responding differently. The relationships that show up carry a different quality. The opportunities that appear are of a different order. The way people treat you, the way the quantum field assembles reality around your signal, has changed. Because your signal has changed. Your soul went out in the night and brought back something that changed what your aura is broadcasting, and reality, which is always, without exception, responsive to your broadcast, has begun to respond differently. This is the full power of the nightly journey. This is why what your soul brings back can genuinely shock you, not because it is impossible or miraculous in the sense of violating natural law, but because it operates according to a natural law that most people have never been taught. The quantum mechanics of consciousness, the non-local nature of the soul's journey, the extraordinary capacity of your electromagnetic field to be upgraded, healed, and transformed during the hours that your physical body sleeps. You are not simply resting at night. You are working. Your soul is working. It is doing the most important work of your life in the dimension where that work is most powerfully done. And you have barely begun to cooperate with it consciously. Let us talk about a practice that you can begin tonight. A practice that is simple, that requires nothing you do not already have, and that, if you maintain it consistently, will transform your relationship to your own nightly journey and to what your soul brings back. We will call it the Nightly Commission. In the last few minutes before you sleep, after you have turned off the screens, after you have allowed your nervous system to begin its downshift, after you have done whatever practice helps you cultivate heart coherence, bring your awareness to your heart center. Breathe into it. Feel it warm. Feel the electromagnetic field it is generating, radiating outward from your chest in every direction. And then, from that place of heart warmth, speak your commission to your soul. Not a demand, not a command, a loving, trusting commission. The way you would send someone you deeply love and trust on an important errand, knowing they will bring back exactly what is needed. The commission has 3 parts. The first part is release. You say to your soul, to your consciousness field, to the quantum field that your soul will travel through. Tonight, release whatever my field is carrying that is not mine to carry any longer. Whatever patterns, whatever frequencies, whatever accumulated density is ready to be dissolved, let it go in the night. Let the quantum field receive it and transmute it. Let me wake up lighter than I went to sleep. The second part is reception. You say, tonight, receive whatever my field most needs, whatever frequency upgrade, whatever information, whatever transmission from the highest available dimension will most serve my evolution and my life. Let my soul find it and bring it back. Let me wake up with what I needed, even if I did not know how to ask for it. The third part is gratitude. You say, thank you, to your soul, to the quantum field, to whatever higher intelligence is guiding your journey. Thank you for the nightly journey. Thank you for what is brought back. Thank you for the process that has been happening every night of my life, whether I was conscious of it or not. I am conscious of it now, and I am grateful. Then you release it. You trust it. You let go of any attachment to what the experience will look like, what you will remember, what dramatic revelation you hope to receive. The most powerful intentions are the ones that are genuine and then released, not clutched, not monitored, not anxiously checked. Set and released, the way you would release a bird from your hand, trusting it to fly where it needs to fly. And in the morning, before you do anything else, lie still for 5 minutes. Breathe softly. Let your awareness be open and receptive. Notice what is present. Notice what has changed. Notice what you know, what you feel, what has shifted in the quality of your field. Write it down if you can, not in elaborate detail, just enough to honor what arrived, to give it a place in your waking reality, to signal to your soul that what it brings back is received, valued, and integrated. Do this for 30 days, simply, consistently, without attachment to dramatic results. And then look back at who you were when you started and who you are now. Look at what has changed in your life, in your relationships, in your opportunities, in the quality of what reality is assembling around your signal. I believe you will find that the change is real, that the nightly journey, made conscious and cooperative, delivers something that no amount of daytime effort can fully replicate. Because the quantum field is accessible during the day, yes, but it is most accessible during sleep. The soul's journey is most complete, most profound, most far-reaching during the hours when the body is fully at rest and the consciousness field is fully free to travel. This is the design. This is how the system works. And working with the design rather than ignoring it is one of the most powerful choices you can make. Now let us talk about something that many of you have experienced, but may not have had the framework to understand. The experience of receiving what feels like a message or a visitation from someone who has died. We have touched on this already with Miriam's story, but I want to go deeper into the mechanics of it, because it is one of the most profound and most commonly reported aspects of the soul's nightly journey, and it deserves a full and honest treatment. When someone we love dies, when their consciousness field leaves physical embodiment, they do not cease to exist. Their consciousness field does not dissolve. What dissolves is the physical vehicle through which that consciousness was expressing itself in the physical dimension. The consciousness itself, the specific electromagnetic signature, the particular quality of awareness and love and personality that made them who they were, continues to exist. It simply exists at a different frequency, in a different dimension, in the non-local quantum field, at a frequency range that physical senses cannot detect, but that consciousness, in its non-local state, can access. This is not wishful thinking. This is the implication of the quantum mechanical understanding of consciousness as a fundamental feature of reality rather than a product of the brain. If consciousness is not produced by the brain, but is rather expressed through it, if the brain is a receiver rather than a generator, then the cessation of brain function does not end consciousness. It simply ends the physical expression of consciousness in this dimension. The consciousness itself continues in the non-local field at a frequency range that corresponds to whatever dimension it now inhabits. And during sleep, when your soul moves into the non-local field, the spatial and temporal barriers that separate physical embodiment from non-physical existence dissolve. Your consciousness field moves into the same quantum dimension where the consciousness fields of those who have died continue to exist, and contact becomes possible. Not always, not automatically. The contact depends on frequency compatibility, on the resonance between your field and theirs. If you are carrying a great deal of grief, contraction, and fear around the loss, that dense frequency can actually interfere with contact, the way static interferes with a radio signal. The contracted frequency of acute grief can make it difficult for your field to tune to the subtler frequency of the departed consciousness. This is one of the cruelest paradoxes of loss. The more desperately you want contact, the more contracted your field becomes with the wanting, and the more difficult contact becomes. It is not that the departed consciousness is withholding. It is that the frequency of desperate longing is not compatible with the frequency of the contact itself. Love, open, trusting, non-grasping love, is a far more effective tuning for contact than desperate need. This is why contact so often comes when you have stopped trying, when you have reached some degree of acceptance, some quality of open-handed love that is no longer clutching at what it has lost, when you have moved, as Miriam moved, from sealed grief to open grief, from the contracted, wall-building grief of denial to the open, breathing grief of genuine acceptance. In that open state, your field can tune to the frequency of the contact, and the contact can come. And when it comes, it is real. It is not your subconscious generating a comforting fantasy. It is a genuine encounter between consciousness fields, yours and theirs, in the non-local dimension, where both exist and where the barriers of physical embodiment do not apply. What is transmitted in that encounter is real. The love is real. The information is real. The sense of their continued existence, their continued awareness of you, their continued love for you. This is real. Your soul brings it back, and it changes something permanent in your relationship to the loss. Not every dream of a departed loved one is a genuine contact experience. Some are generated by memory and grief and the mind's own processing. But some are real encounters, and you can usually feel the difference. A genuine contact experience has a quality of aliveness, of presence, of unmistakable otherness that distinguishes it from a dream generated by your own consciousness. The person feels present, not as a memory, not as a projection, but as themselves. And what they transmit carries a quality of information or love or reassurance that you could not have generated from your own resources. Trust those experiences. Honor them. Let them be what they are. Your soul went out and made contact in the night, and it brought back something that your waking life needed. Receive it with gratitude. Let us bring this toward integration. Let us talk about what it means to live in conscious relationship to the nightly journey, not just as a practice you do before sleep and after waking, but as a fundamental orientation toward your own consciousness field, its extraordinary capacity. When you understand that your soul leaves every night and returns with something, your relationship to sleep changes. It stops being simply a biological necessity, something your body requires in order to function, and becomes a sacred practice in its own right. A practice of trust, of release, of conscious cooperation with the most extraordinary process in your life. When you understand that what your soul brings back encodes itself in your electromagnetic field and changes what your aura broadcasts to the quantum field, your relationship to your morning changes. Those first minutes after waking become precious, a window of integration that is worth protecting, worth being intentional about, worth giving the time and space that it deserves. When you understand that the quality of your aura determines where your soul can travel and what it can access during the nightly journey, your relationship to your field changes. Tending your aura stops being a spiritual luxury and becomes an act of practical intelligence, the most important maintenance practice in your life. And when you understand that the quantum field your soul travels through is not empty or neutral, but is filled with the consciousness fields of other souls, with higher dimensional intelligence, with the accumulated wisdom and love of all of consciousness. When you understand that your soul moves through that field every night in a web of connection and support that you have barely begun to consciously engage with, your relationship to yourself changes. You are not alone. You have never been alone. Every night, your soul moves into the field where all of consciousness exists simultaneously and non-locally, and it is held, supported, guided, and loved by intelligences that are devoted to your evolution and your well-being. Every night, it brings back something that serves your journey: frequency, information, healing, connection, guidance, the specific upgrade your field most needs in this moment. You are not just a physical body moving through a physical world. You are a consciousness field, a soul that inhabits a physical body temporarily and that spends a third of its time in the non-local quantum dimension, doing work that changes everything about what the other 2/3 delivers. You are a traveler. You have always been a traveler. Every night, you go somewhere extraordinary and come back changed. The only difference now is that you know it. The only difference now is that you can choose to cooperate with the journey consciously, to prepare for it with intention, to receive what it brings back with gratitude and attention. And that difference, the difference between an unconscious journey and a conscious one, is the difference between a life that happens to you and a life that you are actively, powerfully, luminously creating in cooperation with the quantum field that responds to your every broadcast. Your soul goes out every night. It goes into the field where all possibility exists. It encounters frequencies, information, consciousness fields, and transmissions that your waking mind cannot access. And it comes back. Every morning, it comes back. It comes back to you, to your body, to your life, carrying what it gathered in the night. And what it brings back will shock you. Not because it is impossible, but because it is more real, more powerful, more loving, and more extraordinary than anything your limited, waking mind could have imagined or generated on its own. what does it bring back? It brings back healing that the body could not have accomplished alone. It brings back information that no amount of research could have produced. It brings back the specific frequency your aura needed to shift from broadcasting fear to broadcasting love, from broadcasting lack to broadcasting abundance, from broadcasting a signal that pushes away what you want to one that calls it toward you with the irresistible gravity of quantum resonance. It brings back contact with the people you love, whether they are in bodies or not. It brings back transmissions from your own higher self, the part of you that can see your path clearly and loves you with a completeness that your waking mind cannot fully comprehend. It brings back the resolved grief, the clarified purpose, the dissolved pattern, the opened heart that your waking life could not quite reach. It brings back you, a truer version of you, a higher frequency version of you, a version of you that has been to the quantum field and back and carries in its electromagnetic signature the evidence of where it has been. Every morning, when you open your eyes, you are not the same person who closed them. Your soul has been somewhere. It has done something. It has brought something back. And if you are willing to be still for a few minutes, to listen with the kind of attention that hears what is subtle, to receive with the kind of openness that honors what is extraordinary, you will feel it.